Good morning. It's time. It's the Jeffrey Lampkin Show. Listen, today, the state of South Carolina State University. Where were you on Tuesday at about 1 p.m. when the House Ways and Means Subcommittee voted 3-1 to close the doors on South Carolina State University for 2 years? We're going to dig deeper on this morning. We're going to talk about them taking on the $100 million in debt that would occur if they were to close the university. Historically black college. 1896, history beyond the making. It's time. It's the Jeffrey Lampkin Show. Your coffee cups are up, your pinkies are out. You're getting lamped. Good morning.
Here we go. The Jeffrey Lampkin. Everybody get up. Say what? Everybody get up. Come on. The Jeffrey Lampkin. Motivation, inspiration, educating new revelation. The Jeffrey Lampkin. Entertainment just for you. Smile and laugh, 'cause God loves you. The Jeffrey Lampkin. Somebody turn the lamp on.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Jeffrey Lampkin Show. Listen, put your coffee cups down right now. Hot topic, as I told you back in the intro, all week we've been talking about the state of South Carolina State. Where were you on Tuesday when the news came down that the House Ways and Means Subcommittee had voted 3-1 that South Carolina State be closed? And I'm excited because we have a panel of guests who are going to give their varied opinions. We have some who are alumni of South Carolina State, and we have people who are just passionate about education and the well-being of the historically black colleges and universities. I'm excited to welcome to the panel on this morning, Johnny, Bryanta, Devin, and Terrence. Everybody, good morning.
Morning.
Now listen, let me pause for one moment. Y'all know I got to keep it right. Did I say your name correctly?
Bryanta.
Bryanta. I'm trying to get it right. Y'all know I hack up names out there. Sunday morning, but it's what we're doing. Listen, so first question I want to ask is, where were each of you at the moment that you found out that the House Ways and Means Committee had voted 3-1 that South Carolina State be shut down for 2 years?
I was at work.
Okay.
And one of my coworkers, Malik McClaney, came to me, hey man, you heard this? You just heard this? And he showed it to me on his phone.
Wow.
And I looked at it and I said, grabbed his phone then. I took it out of his hand. And I started strolling through his phone. I read the whole thing where the subcommittee had voted 3-1 to close South Carolina State University for a year.
So you were at work at the time. A coworker showed it to you. What about you?
I was at work.
Okay.
My friend Leslie Drake sent me a text, and I was like, where did you get this from? Because I figured it was a satire site. You know, we have all these
Definitely.
fake websites.
It's hard. Listen, you better trust the facts. You can't trust everyone. They had Bobby Christina dead for weeks, and she's still alive and breathing. So you better trust your facts.
So I made a couple phone calls, and then after that, my phone started blowing up.
Right.
And within seconds, I was like, you know what, we got to go into action.
Right. Something has to be done. Where were you, Devin?
I was at work, and I seen it in my Facebook news feed, and I read this story, and well, that was that.
Wow. And what about
I was at home taking care of my sick daughter, and went to my tablet, saw this notification, and after that, the firestorm ensued.
The firestorm ensued. And when I tell you the firestorm ensued, Facebook went on fire. Now, let me tell you, and here's one of the things. Listen, we're having conversation, and I invited so many people. Like, I put it out. If you want to come talk and discuss. There were a lot of people who, there are people who have opinions. I call it the Facebook pulpit and the Instagram pulpit. They got plenty of stuff to say behind the scenes.
Exactly.
But when you come up and someone has to challenge you about your opinion, then that's another story. So here's where I am. We're sitting there, they say that South Carolina State is going to close, and then people started trying to minimize the effects of what happened. People started saying, it's just the first vote. But to me, the first vote is sound the alarm. There's a sense of urgency that needs to take place. Don't minimize what is taking place or what's happening at this moment in time. How many of you agree that South Carolina State should be closed? Okay, all right, guess it's just interesting. How many of you feel that South Carolina State should be closed temporarily? No temporary. So everybody feels that South Carolina State should be kept open. Why?
Yes.
Well,
you said, hold on, wait a minute. You said if?
No, I said yes.
Oh, okay, you said yes. I thought he said if. I thought there was some if then. I was about to get excited. Wait a minute.
There is an if in regards to finances and things of that nature. We know that we've been in a deficit for quite some time.
Say that one more time. We've been in a what?
A deficit.
For quite some time.
For quite some time. But my argument would be, well, let me preface it by saying this. Surely South Carolina State is not the only state-funded school that's in trouble. So I guess my argument is why this particular one.
But and this is where I am, because, and I'm going to go ahead and go on record right now and say what I have to say, so then that way people won't, because I know you're sitting up here, and I like to clear out stuff. I like to call demons in their face. So the reality is that there are 5 black people sitting on the couch. However, all 5 of us do not feel that South Carolina State should be closed. The 4 that are sitting around me actually feel that South Carolina State should remain open.
Yes.
I feel like there needs to be some type of plan. There has to be a definitive plan that has to be set into place, or we need to close temporarily with a guaranteed assurance, because someone said on Facebook, how do we know that if we close, we're going to open again? That's a very true statement. How do you know if you close this university that you're going to be a man or woman of your word and you're going to do what needs to be said? But it's just like this. Think about it if it was your personal money and you gave it to someone for an investment. This is your money, your coins, and you tell them that there's something that they need to do, and then they don't follow through. What do you do?
Well, I think that's problematic, because we're assuming that they didn't do what they were supposed to do with it. So I think that the preface is problematic. If you look at the media coverage of South Carolina State over the years, there's always been this overcast. It's particularly in the media of the for lack of a better word, what's wrong with SC State. We always hear that. We hear fiscal irresponsibility. And I really feel like if you look at the timing of this, that this has less to do with fiscal irresponsibility and more to do with a particular faction, those who are privileged, wanting to see these doors shut under the auspices of we're trying to be fiscally responsible. So the handwriting is on the wall.
Oh, for South Carolina State?
The handwriting is on the wall, and I think now it because of the historicity of South Carolina State, the only way that you can close an institution that has such a rich legacy is to claim that something's wrong with the money. When you start talking about black people and you start talking about their money, we get a little afraid. And I've been noticing on Facebook that voices that have been so prominent along the years are now being silent about this issue. Why is that? Why is that? That's problematic to me.
And why did they allow South Carolina State University to get in the situation? In other words, why did it take so long? You know, we've been underfunded for years. Okay, so by being underfunded means that you have not had the resources to do some of the things that you really needed to do to sustain growth. So I'm sure there are other state-supported schools that are in deficit.
That's right.
And they didn't allow them to get to this point. Why did you allow South Carolina State University to get to this point?
But was it South Carolina? Because one of the things, here's the thing, here's where I become bothered with this situation, because you all are saying this, but did the state not offer them a loan previously to try to help them get out of the situation that they're in? That's one. And number two, aren't they funded just like other schools and given money based on the amount of people that are enrolled in the school? Aren't they funded just like other schools and given this? And three, we talk about a personal attack, but even Caucasian people, Hugh Leatherman, who's in the Senate, is a big proponent of South Carolina State. He's white.
If you take a look, well, let me address this first. Okay. When you start talking about isn't state, a publicly funded university, if you look from 2007 to 2014, South Carolina State's funding was cut by $15 million.
Yes.
Under the auspices of recession. When we came out of recession, all of the other state institutions, their fundings went back to pre-recession amounts, except South Carolina State. If you take a look at the numbers, and I was talking to a former budget analyst this morning of South Carolina State, so this is qualified. If you take a look at the numbers, where they are in deficit, it matches the amount of funding that was stripped from them from the last 7 years.
But let me ask this question, Terrence. When the money was stripped, because everybody went through the recession together, when the money was stripped, you stopped eating filet mignon and you started eating pork and beans, rice, and sausage. And there ain't nothing wrong with it, because I love my pork and beans, rice, and sausage. Please understand. So you had to change to keep up with where we were going, even though eventually we would get back there. How can we be in a deficit if we changed our practices when the money was stripped away?
Now I agree with that. Now, I am not saying it at all that South Carolina State is not somewhat culpable.
Okay.
What I'm saying is you can't throw gasoline on someone, light a match, throw the match at their feet, watch them catch on fire, and then blame them for catching on fire. The state is responsible. They stripped this money from them. They are culpable in the demise of South Carolina State. And then to come back to them, why are you having to give me a $6 million loan when you have underfunded me by $15 million for the last 7 years?
Exactly, because that loan is what you owe me.
It's what you owe me.
Exactly.
Basically, like
and you
that
expect
money,
me to repay what you owe me.
And they only gave us half of what we was due in the first place.
But everyone else, every other school function, and I'm not saying that they're not in deficits, because you all said that earlier about, well, what about these other schools who potentially are, having deficits, but they're not having to continuously come to the state about money. Now, here's one more thing. We're not just talking about the state. South Carolina State University accreditation is currently being reviewed by SACS. They have nothing to do with the state of South Carolina and Governor Nikki Haley. This is a total separate entity who has come in and said the exact same thing, that that it's under review because of financial practices. Now, what do you say to that?
And that's where I think you have to start from the bottom, and you have to basically eliminate the board. I know plenty of people are against that, but the board has been an issue for years. You have to get people that are well enough and good enough and have the desire to see South Carolina State move forward instead of staying stagnant. So yes, we have to eliminate the board and start all over.
When you say eliminate the board, and I do want to say this right here. The current president of South Carolina State University, Mr. Elsie, I absolutely love him. I feel like he has really gone out of his way. Anytime someone who is supposed to receive a salary increase and things of that nature does not receive it, I feel like he is really working tirelessly to make the changes that need to be made.
Yeah, I want to go. Determined.
I think he is.
And even based on the statement that he released on yesterday after all of this, it voiced a determination. He said that South Carolina State will not close. But the question that begs to be asked is, where are priorities?
Okay.
Because based on what I've been reading about South Carolina State, in addition to the deficit, there's been a decline in enrollment.
Okay.
And they said, the article I was reading also went on to say that maybe not most, but there's a high percentage of students that enroll that do not graduate.
That is
after
true.
4
That
years.
is true, and I'm coming to only 14% of the graduates of the students of South Carolina State University graduate in 4 years. But hello, somebody, who goes to college and graduates in 4 years these days?
Right.
Please help me understand. What college you going to where they graduate in 4 years? Listen, y'all know I'm telling the truth.
That's the point that I was getting ready to make. It's almost, I understand that money is a major issue, but when I asked the question earlier, where are our priorities, it's almost like we're looking so much at the business side of it until we're not looking at the importance of making sure that these students that are enrolled there sustain a quality education. Of course, they're not going to graduate in 4 years.
Right.
When I was going to school to teach, it was a 5-year program.
Right.
So do I count as a statistic of failure because I didn't graduate in 4 years? And if I'm a statistic of failure, does that mean that now you can't finance my education? In other words, it's very, very comparable to his example when he said you can't throw the gasoline on them, strike a match, and watch them burn and then blame them. Because if you're saying I don't qualify for funding because I didn't finish in 4 years, but it's a 5-year program, well, that's an oxymoron.
Listen, it's getting hot in here. My. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the question on the table, then who is to blame for what is happening at South Carolina State?
That's a good one.
I want to hear from my panel. I also want to hear from you. Make sure that you're tweeting right now, that you're on Facebook, The Jeffrey Lampkin Show, at Jeffrey Lampkin. Come on, listen, it's happening. More is happening on The Jeffrey Lampkin Show. Your coffee cups are up, your pinkies are out. You're getting lamped. Good morning.
Cannon & Graves is a proud sponsor of The Jeffrey Lampkin Show. Located at 1837 Wilson Road in Newberry, Cannon & Graves has the perfect certified used car for you. Their extensive inventory has something in every price range, and they can get everyone financed, regardless of credit. All cars come with a warranty to give you the peace of mind you deserve. Come see Steve and Reggie and find your new car at Cannon & Graves.
Good morning. We're back here on the Jeffrey Lampkin Show. Listen, put your coffee cups down. We're talking the state of South Carolina State University. And before we left, of course, we've got Johnny Bryanta. I got it right this time?
Bryanta.
Oh, Lord, I can't get that name right to save my life. I'm going to get it right, y'all. I'm going to get it right. Devin and Terrence on the couch. And I'm loving the conversation that we're having this morning. We're talking about the state of South Carolina State and some of the things that I want to help you. If you're just joining us, on Tuesday at approximately about 1 p.m., the House Ways and Means Subcommittee made a vote for 3-1 saying that South Carolina State should be closed for 2 years. Now, of course, there are other votes that have to be taken in. Of course, this is a far way off. I want to help people to understand because it still has to go through the full House and the full Senate, where that's going to be a tough battle because there are so many congressional leaders who are in favor of South Carolina State. But I think it's just like a parent when you ask yourself, when is enough, and you allow your child to get out there and figure it out on their own. Some of the things just to make you aware, the state saying this, they're willing to take on $100 million in debt to try and clean up South Carolina State. Because first they got to fund students going to other institutions and universities. They made it easy though, because they said all you have to do is have a minimum 2.5 GPA. So that's a mix of B's and C's.
Yes.
If you have that, we will give you scholarships, academic scholarships to go to other state institutions. Also, some of the things that I love was the fact, not love, but some of the things that they're saying is that we should need to fire the school, the administration, the trustees, the faculty, and the staff, and start clean, start all back over again. Now, I don't know, in my mind, I could see the faculty, I don't really understand that one. All they're doing is in the classroom educating the students. They ain't controlling the money. Exactly. Listen, they don't write their own check. You know, so I don't understand that portion, but I understand the staff when you got people like Vice President of Financial Affairs or whatever the case may be.
That's the root. I think that's where we need to start.
Okay.
And we also need to go and look at the board and restructure how we elect board officials.
Is the board to blame,
Why?
Johnny? You're an alumni of State, because somebody is to blame for this. Or I think it's really a combination, but what do you think?
I think it's a big part.
Okay.
That they're to blame.
Okay.
They have to oversee all of this. So you can't tell me that you didn't see that this school is going downhill. I think the election process that we have for electing board members need to be restructured.
Okay.
We need to look at going out of the boardwalks of the state of South Carolina to get board members and look at people that we can bring in from other parts of the country or state to say, hey, look, let's help the school. I mean, we don't have to just rely on people that are here in Columbia, South Carolina, or in Orangeburg.
Because isn't Benedict? What's the celebrity name? Cheryl
Underwood.
Yeah, she.
Yeah,
right. Come on, you better say.
We need to go beyond and try to find people that's going to help the school.
They're going to be able to help.
The question that also needs to be asked is: did the problem just originate within South Carolina State University? I said earlier in reference to attendance that the enrollee count has dropped.
It has. It has about 3,000 students, and they used to have an enrollment of 4,000.
Right.
We have to look at the recruitment budget.
And that's anything that's going to be.
Because if they
Go ahead.
not to cut you off, because if they are cutting the funding of South Carolina State, then that means programs are being cut and jobs are being lost.
But I remember that there was a point where when they were trying to restructure the school, because remember we've been through a couple of restructurings in South Carolina State, and I can't say again, y'all, I really need to understand. The president of South Carolina State, I love this man. The reason why is because I watched him. When you watch people, when you watch what they do, because they're like fire the whole administration, but I don't feel he deserves to be fired. And I'm going to go ahead and say it because I feel like he's gotten in there. He's gotten in the trench. You came in when the school was already in trouble.
Right.
You have done nothing but try to fix it. You did not take a pay raise. And then there have been times when he's tried to cut things, and I'm saying we as alumni and just constituents of South Carolina, we've started an uproar. Well, you can't cut this out. Well, think about the homecoming. Remember homecoming?
Right, and I think we have to, sometimes we become fixated on the glory days of old, and the glory days of South Carolina State were and are beautiful. But I think we are in the midst of a changing landscape, and we are going to have to be flexible if we are going to see sustainable change.
Right.
If we don't let go of some of that, I'm not saying let go of the tradition or anything of that, but we are going to have to be flexible. We're going to have to stop being Facebook prophets and shutting everything down.
We need to take this thing serious, man.
Yes,
This thing
we
has
really
got to be
do.
to a serious point.
Right.
So we need to look at it and take it serious, you know, because it ain't play no more.
And that was my issue when people were coming in were like, it's just the first vote. No, if you don't do something, why are we going to wait until the end? Right, it sets precedent because to me, when that vote came out, you know what it said? Somebody is tired.
Yes.
Somebody has had enough. And think about it now, this is where I want to go. For those of you who have parents or children or whatever the case may be, when you are sick and tired of your child making the same mistake over and over again. That's it. You're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
Something's got to change. And I don't think that they're saying they want to. I think people are trying to make this into a black and white issue. Black people, don't come for me right now. Please don't come for me. I feel like people are trying to make this into a black
issue.
I don't
it's
think
a matter of incompetence.
Exactly.
It's a matter of having people that do not know how to do their job.
Obviously so, because if you give me $12 million, I promise you I'll manage it well for you.
Yes.
And I just think like that. Like there are people who, there are some things that need to be changed. And I think there are some people, sometimes as a father, as a mother, you've got to make tough decisions.
Yes.
They may not like it, but you've got to make it.
Got to get away from the buddy system.
Exactly. So if we need to, because I remember, wasn't it the education school, the lab or something, and everybody started talking about and it had historical context. It might have historical, but if you can't fund it, why are we keeping it open?
You
so
now
now,
the transportation department.
Also, and so my thing is, if we're going to temporarily. It's sometimes, this is my thing. If we had to make a fix, you're sitting here right now, what would you say? Because you're saying that you shouldn't shut down South Carolina State. But in my mind, I'm sitting here and saying, if we can guarantee a temporary hold on South Carolina State and we give the students opportunities to go somewhere else and it cleans up the mess, why can't we do that?
One quick thing, I do want to address this.
Okay.
You know, not to be too spiritual, but we do know that there's, spiritual wickedness in high places. I do believe that there is a subset. It may be small.
Okay.
There is a racist undertone in some of the commentary.
I sure do.
I spent about 3 hours just purging through comments.
Okay.
And some of the comments that I read, coming from those of privileged positions.
Okay.
Were very racial.
Yeah.
And generally, whenever they portray certain HBCUs, not all, but certain ones, he mentioned it earlier, it's almost always in a negative sense. It's always a negative connotation attached to it.
When it comes to South Carolina State.
Specifically.
I'm about to say
Specifically, when it comes to South Carolina State University, it's a negative overtone.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
then
you can look at it and say it's sort of semi-prejudice. Yeah, it's
But
it's
why
sort
is
of
it
racist.
why is it South Carolina State that's the negative overtone, but we can go right next door to Claflin and Claflin is
Well,
living
and
in glory?
that's the point that I believe that there has been a moral decline in us as a people. And we allow things not in a super, blackenistic, if that's a word, sense. But we have to be honest with ourselves and say that we don't have the morals that we did at one time.
No.
There was what's going on now. The reason why this can even be a discussion is because there's a tear in the fabric.
Right.
There's a tear in the fabric for
Things have
African.
changed.
Somebody died for you to be able to get to a
To get
school
to
to
South
learn.
Carolina State.
Things have
Yeah.
changed. It's not like it was when I went there. I went there in the 70s when it was South Carolina State College. And, the flow of the college now has totally changed from 1972 to 1976. But you got to look at this university. This university has produced so many tax-paying
Yes, Lord.
And that's what they don't want to talk about.
people that
They used to
have made a difference
They used to have a law
in this
school.
society.
Matthew Perry.
This institution has produced more African American armed generals in the Army than any
Perry.
And
college in the state. Okay, has put more people in the pros, more athletes in the pros than any college in the
But
state.
let me ask this question. Here we go, because we're talking about the past, and I know we got to wrap real quick. We're talking about the past, so it's just like church. You know how we said we got to move to the new generation or move to another time? So they used to do that.
You got to figure out what happened.
We need to figure out what happened.
Figure out what
So here
happened
we
from
go.
there to now.
Right here, because everybody's going to sit here and be like, they're just talking about it. Solution. You all are telling me, because in my mind, I say, I don't think South Carolina State should be closed permanently. No. But if we can't get a solid, I agree. Governor Nikki Haley said that South Carolina State leadership has been unable to provide answers on the condition of the school and the finances.
Ask Governor Haley
Closing
where
it
our
temporarily
15
would be devastating.
Okay.
Not just for the university, but for the city of Orangeburg.
That's
for the
true,
state
the
of South
jobs.
Carolina. It'll be devastating. Economically, it would hurt the city of Orangeburg dramatically.
So what do we do?
So you can't close
We
it.
got to go, but what do we do?
I
Ask
think the Blue
Governor Haley
Ribbon
for the
Task
$15 million
Force-
for the last 7 years. How about that?
Yeah, and that.
Give us our money.
But
Give us our funding back. And
How about that?
Because it's funny how
Let's
we
talk
can
about
fund
that.
everything else.
Let's
It's
talk about that.
mighty funny. Hospitals get in trouble all the time, but you find a way to keep them open. Lord have mercy. Let's not talk about.
the rural ones. Let's not
Well,
the
you know the
rural
one
ones. In her
like
county,
They
Denver.
closed.
Yeah.
Those with privilege
Yeah.
do not see the significance of the school,
And
so they
that's from
see no
black and
problem.
white
That's
people
from black
alike.
and
That's
white
where the
people.
elitism
That's why I said
comes in.
privilege.
Okay.
They
I'm going to
do
skip
not
my
see-
coffee talk. Keep talking.
They
Don't worry about the
they
intro.
don't see a need to keep this institution open. That's why they are so willing to let it go.
So what do
easily.
we do? What?
I
They're
think
dumb.
the Blue Ribbon Task Force should take the place of the board.
Okay.
for a
Who is the
couple-
Blue Ribbon Task Force?
I'm not sure who's on it.
Oh, I mean, like, what is
The
the
blue, it's like a subcommittee of the House and Ways.
Okay.
Ways Committee, yeah.
Okay.
So
You better know your legislative stuff. And they say, and she graduated from
Yes.
South
South
Carolina
Carolina
State. Go,
2006 with a degree in political science.
Come on.
come on.
I hear you now. I hear you.
Of the board of trustees
Okay.
for a couple of years.
Okay,
For
in
at least
order
2
to
to 3
clean
years.
up. So it needs to be an outside organization that really
Yes.
comes in and still has the interest of. Any other things? Is everybody in agreement that that's what
And
needs
I think our politicians need to get involved.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's the time to be vocal.
okay.
Where are they? Where are
Wow.
the Jim Clybers, graduate of South Carolina State University?
Wow.
Where's Kay Patterson? Let's speak out on this thing now.
Let's
Let's
speak
talk
and
about it. You know?
let's send our students there. Let's not have a lot of rhetoric. Let's send our students
That's
there.
what I wanted
That's what
to
we
say.
need to do, because if we fix institution, but we're so bougie that we don't want to send our kids there,
Wow.
this
There
fix
you
will
go.
be null and void. So we've got to send our
Lord.
kids there.
Listen, we gotta go. Y'all done got. Woo! Jesus on the main line. Tell them what you want. Listen, I know you getting dressed for church. You gotta shift your wig. I know y'all about to listen. Send me email at Jeffrey Lampkin, the Jeffrey Lampkin Show. Let me thank all my panelists. Johnny, Lord, I'm so happy right now. Johnny, Bryanta. I got it today. Devin and Terrence. Listen, make sure you follow all of these people on Facebook, Instagram, and listen, the conversation is going to continue. This is not over. But here's my appeal and my goal to you. Allow your voice to be heard and respect the opinions of others.
Yes.
Everybody has a
Yes.
right to have an opinion as
Exactly.
long as it's done in a respectful manner. Understandably, that South Carolina State may be your institution. It wasn't mine, but guess what? I was able to sit on the couch with her. I am friends with so many people from South Carolina State. My interns are from South Carolina State. So that shows you that there are people who care, who have not even paid a dime to the institution. But at the end of the day, all we want to do is see black, young kids be successful. And highly educated.
Yes.
Listen, coffee cups are up, pinkies are out, you're getting lamped. Hope your Valentine's Day was wonderful. And go to church this morning. It's Black History Month. We shall overcome. Good morning.
Somebody turn the lamp on.